Hello, everybody. It's Friday night, and it is Weekender time once again. On this week's show, I'm joined by John, Justin, and Shay, or the three Justins, as I call them, to take you through the week's worth of gaming and tabletop news. So sit back and relax, because your weekend starts here. Happy Friday! Hello, everyone. We're back. Shay survived Salute, didn't you, Shay?
Barely.
Barely survived
Yes,
Salute.
I did.
I hear one of the kitchen staff tried to assassinate you.
Yeah. Someone who sold me a wrap tried to kill me. That was nice.
So glad I took the salad now.
Yeah. I kind of wish I was vegetarian.
Yeah, who would have thought the healthy option was the safe way to go? Huh? The world gone mad. If you didn't make it down to the XL in London last weekend, you won't have had a chance to say hello to us, which is terrible. Many people did. Shocked. Absolutely shocked, as I am, that people actually, A, listen to us and B, enjoy what we're doing. I just assumed that we were just the speed bump in the road of life that you had to get over to find out what was happening.
I'm just screaming into the void of YouTube.
Yeah, but apparently people appreciate what we do. So thank you very much. Any of those we got to say hello to. I'd seen some people commenting that they'd seen us, but we were talking, and so they couldn't talk to us. And then they moved on with their lives. So apologies if you couldn't say hello. Maybe you'll get us next year. Who knows?
Or Expo's on the cards.
Expo is not far away. We'll get to that shortly. However, if you didn't get to see us and the manic grin of Shay, which didn't look like that after being on his feet for about 8 hours solid.
No, it did not.
No, he did not. We have the live blog there, which contains photo galleries from both the gaming tables and also Peachy covered the painting competition for us as well, so you can have a look through those. There are some corking tables. That one, particularly good. The Carantan table, done by the retired Wargamers and a lovely gentleman who does a prog rock radio show as well. So does a lot of work for charity. It's progtastic. We will be revisiting Slut over the next few weeks because I dragged Shay around and talked to what seemed like most people, but then turned out to be less than a quarter of the tables that were ongoing there, which is madness, Shay, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit mental, it was.
It wasn't a short day.
No.
But I don't know when they're going to start going out. Is it next Wednesday, Justin? Is that the plan?
Yeah, so with the amount you guys filmed, if it works out the way I'm planning and hoping it works out, there should be 4 videos. 3 of them containing 5 segments, 1 of them containing 6, because apparently, according to Shay, there's one you filmed, his favorite, your favorite, which might be a little bit too spicy for the interwebs.
No, it's fine. No, Bunny Badger Games, guys. There's nothing wrong with that.
Fantastic. That's what I said to him.
Hey. Disclaimer now. I've said it now.
Nothing spicy about it. No, fine. People really enjoyed those games as well. You couldn't. It was. Yeah. We literally went back to them as they were closing the show up because it was the first chance we'd got to get near any of their tables because they'd been hip deep in people all day long.
Yeah.
So it's just a chance to see not only the tables because you can see those in the photo gallery. Although Shay did take lovely pictures of them walking all around, but also a chance to find out who was running them, the games they were using or adapting or written themselves for it, and what they were all about. And then also because a lot of them are club games as well, it gives you a chance to find out about clubs that might be near to you in your area that you could potentially visit in the future as well.
Yeah, or that you can get press ganged into for next year.
Yeah, well, press ganging is always good. There was a blood and plunder table, so you could get press ganged quite regularly. But yeah, so Salute, it's gone. And like Justin was saying, the next one that's going to be coming down the tracks is UKGE. Yeah. That's only 36 days away. Yep.
And are you sure it's 36? I thought it was right at the start of June.
Yep. So 36 days away. Well,
Okay.
35 if you're watching this on Friday night, 36 as we record it. If you're watching on Saturday, 34. You get the idea. Deduct one from the day. But we have a few videos coming up with Tony, one of the directors. The first one, which we've already stuck out there, is for the game publisher and designer track. Now, that is important because if you are a games designer and you're thinking about getting involved with it, there's a lot of stuff going on, not just for people buying and selling and playing games, but if you want to actually get your game published, they've got a whole host of seminars and events, some of which are time sensitive for sign up. Mm-hmm. So if you want to sign up to them, you need to have like prototypes submitted or videos submitted by the 15th of May, I want to say. So we go through that in the video. If you want to find out more beyond the video, if you come to the UKG website, see, 36 days to go. I was right. And you go to what's on, this whole drop down bit is all for publishers and designers. So if you've got an idea for a game, you might find something in there about how to go about pitching it, or how to go about designing a prototype, or play testing, or getting in contact with play testers. All of that good stuff, as the man says, is in that drop down there. So you can check those out. Like I say, we've got 2 more videos with the delightful Tony coming about the sort of stuff that non-games designer people can get involved in while they're over there, because we're going big this year on the live stream. Mm-hmm. I believe we're kicking the live stream off on the Friday morning with Luke Gygax.
Oh, interesting.
So, son of Gerry, the man who more or less started all of this nonsense going. Certainly in modern age, the RPG industry probably wouldn't exist in the same way we think about it without Gerry and his initial descent into the dungeons with the dragons. But yeah, lots of stuff coming from UKG in 36 days.
Right, just think about it. We have to strip out the whole studio, bring it all the way to England, set up all the studio at the UK Games Expo.
It'll be fine. It'll be grand. I hear we've got chairs this year and everything.
Nah.
Remind me not to go near any rap.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Actually, having shared a room with you and heard the fire hose, I'll be keeping raps away from you. I'll probably be just feeding you, to going, here's some gruel. Nutritious, bland gruel for you.
This reminds me of one many moons ago, back in I think it was 2011. Myself and Warren were across at Black Library Live, and after Black Library Live, we went out with the estimable man John Stallard himself for a few pints. Warren had quite more than a few pints back then, and we ended up in a kebab shop. And when we get back to the hotel, I swear to God, it sounded like a machine gun.
Nice.
Yeah, so kebabs are off the menu too.
Right. It's not going to leave you with much to eat there, Shay. Probably peas and gruel. You'll be fine. You'll be fine with it.
I'll go down to Ben Roy. I'll become a vegetarian.
Oh God, don't even say it. Say it ain't so.
Just
we
cabbage.
can't be friends anymore.
Shame. Right. Before this descends into madness. Yes, those are the updates, but now it's time for the most important part of the week. It is, of course, the indie of the week. And this week, it's Weevil Miniatures, which in and of itself is a great name for a company, because
a little bit of a tongue twister.
I mean, nobody really worries about werewolves or werebears these days. Weevils are where it's at. Now, he is Australian. That's our first caveat, Marcus Blackman, which means whenever you see any prices in dollars and go, oh my God, that's ridiculous, it's Australian dollars, different exchange rate, lower than I believe the US dollar. And secondly, weevils probably exist. Everything else doesn't in Australia, between the drop bears and the EU armies and all the rest. So this is just something else that you should be avoiding when
you're reading it Wereweevil. I'm reading it Wereweevil.
That makes less sense, but sure, you do you. It has to be an animal.
Okay.
Animal. Wereweevil. Anyway, so this is a range of 28mm resin cast miniatures from Marcus that he's been working on and off for a few years now. Now, fact, we'll stay here and I'll just scoot down, because when you see them, they are very Old Hammer aesthetic-y, which is where this sort of springs from. And obviously the Old Hammer community is massive. In fact, it was Josh from the Crown of Command podcast who went, "Have you seen these?" to me. And I went, "I have not." I'm so glad that you've introduced me to them. He is working on a game, the Spire of Apophis, which is good because I've been watching a lot of Stargate recently, which will use all of the miniatures that you're going to be seeing in some sort of weird infectious spire type of thing. So think creepy necromunda, creepy termite mound. Do Weevils live in mounds? Some sort of creepy spire?
I don't even know what a Weevil is.
They're tiny little bugs that get into things like flour and corn and maize and stuff. And
okay.
You end up with Weevily biscuits. You've seen Master and Commander. You must always choose the lesser of two Weevils. You're going to say you haven't, aren't you?
I haven't.
Oh my God. Master and Commanders are fantastic. Even if you don't like...
John Shea, yay, nay?
I haven't watched Master and Commander.
Oh, it Gladiator on a boat.
Yeah.
Think sharp, but as a captain of a ship during that sort of Trafalgar era. So
I think I've seen the trailer for it. Are they like chasing another ship?
They are being chased and chasing another ship. All of the above. It's a great book series as well. Anyway,
sounds like every ship movie ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless they're chasing a monster or attempting to raise the Titanic, that's kind of what's going on. Yeah. Anyway, so the Wereweevil range, I suppose you could split into Orcs, Chaos, and Dwarves, bracketing loosely. And if you are of a certain vintage, which none of you children are, oh my God. Where's Warren? At least if Warren was here, he's slightly older and one step closer to the grave than me, I wouldn't feel so bad. But back in the day, there were a whole range of bots, especially the Orcs used to make these little stunt bot type things that were based on Eldar and Space Marines and stuff. So these kind of have that feel where you get some orcish looking bots as well. So you can sort of drop these things in as killer cans or knob boy units or that sort of thing. But I'm quite intrigued as to his plans for the Spire game, where you are attempting to infect or disinfect. Oh no, that's not what I want to do. I want to go to other pictures. There we go. But things like this, I mean, it's like a tiny little Kinder Surprise of Doom coming at you with all the guns. Just magic those.
Illegal in America.
Yes, well, not the guns, obviously, the Kinder Surprise part.
Yes.
Yeah, because chocolate and a surprise. Why would you ever give that to a child?
Looking hazards.
Look how utterly adorable he is. So a Dreadnought Orky robot. They are a delightful set of unusual figures, but I think the ones that really appealed to me the most, beyond the egg bots and egg commanders, are when he starts getting into the chaosy bits, because they are just a whole other level. Look at the tiny egg robots.
It's so adorable.
It's like a little stumpy Vader.
It is 100% a little stumpy Vader. Can I open you a new one, and will I get a top and a bottom to that picture? No,
you won't.
It's been photographed by me, but now you can see the feet and the heads, so that's good. Let's go back to the picture. I mean, Vader telling you can rule the galaxy like egg and egglet.
I find your lack of yoke disturbing.
That's terrible. I love
yes, it is.
I love it so much. Look,
kick him.
It's a Mark I Terminator where the shoulder pads joined up at the top for reasons best known to whoever did the initial concept artwork of that, because I'm fairly certain they couldn't move.
Most likely, they probably looked at it with most of the ones these days and go, if you shrug, you're going to squish your head. Tell you what, let's arc them up over the top. You can shrug all day.
I think it was just to stop fire going past you and hitting people behind you. If you actually filled the silhouette of a corridor in Terminator armor, then, I mean, you were just one more barrier.
See, seeing these, it makes sense how, they can only go single file in a Space Hulk.
Well, that's the nice thing about tactical dreadnought armor. But here we have some of the angrier types. So your cornate jugger egg coming at you like Cleopatra down Main Street.
He's so tiny.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's 25 by 70 mil base. So, what, about 50 mil in length? So that's it's more or less the correct size for Juggernaut before GW started expanding everything so you couldn't rank them up anymore for reasons best known to themselves. Not that I'm better. I am still better. Why have they made old world bases bigger?
Yeah, this feels like this fella loves old school squats.
He just was like, I need more squats. There aren't any, so I'll make them.
I respect it.
And there aren't any chaos squats mounted on Steeds of Slaanesh. Charlie. That's what's going on there. Look at it. Could you imagine that lancing away at you? I mean, it would give you nightmares.
I don't really want to.
Oh, it's a whole Galvy bucket of extreme bizarre Agnes. Including this one on what appears to be a base of
Extremely angry. Yeah, extremely angry eye.
Like Skippy the Eye Child. For all the Garth Marenghi fans out there. Back on tour. Just saying. I mean, there's a game coming up soon from Osprey called the Doomed. I was going to say the Damned, but that's Campton Sensible. That's different. The Doomed, and it's a post-apocalyptic monster weirdo help me skirmish game. No miniatures for it, but I mean, if something like that was coming out of an irradiated forest, I can imagine that's the sort of thing that you're going to have to beat to death with a 2x4 and a couple of nails through it, or even this. I mean, is that some sort of tongue, or is that another protuberance, or is it its foot?
It has to taste which direction you went.
Oh, that's not good. Oh, I'd start swinging through trees like a orangutan.
It's like a Roomba. Just goes across.
It's a Roomba of death. Oh, look at some of our chaos egg squats. Look at them.
Cool.
It's a ridiculous concept, and I'm 100% on board with it.
I love it so much.
Gerry approves this message.
I mean, anybody who had the original squats and exo armor, they were essentially eggs with massive, massive shoulders, and occasionally put them on bikes so they could actually reach something before the game ended, which was always good. And I'm sad that the modern game doesn't have squats. It has these, what are they called? Leagues of Votan.
Yeah.
Which some people may think are squats. They're not squats. What's going on with all this high-tech sci-fi nonsense? Squats were fat, bald men on bikes, and occasionally they wore egg armor. Look at the beakies on him.
Yeah. See, I was almost expecting Gerry to turn around and go, why do they have knees? They shouldn't have knees.
Well, yeah, no, they shouldn't have knees. They should just be a pair of boots glued straight to the arse of an egg. And that is what I'm seeing here in all its cornate goodness. Skulls.
See, look at it this way, Gerry. They're so round, you can probably just say they have a higher speed stat because they just roll downhill.
I don't know which one went away, but one of them went away. There's another eyeball. It's just bizarre. I have to open that because he's on his delightful flying Zinch disc, but I need to find the regular squats and orcs. Although the Rotten Sewer Grub set is quite nice. Look at him on his flying little disc, going from town to town, apologizing for that time Steve Irwin got stabbed up by a stingray. That's what he does. That is his job in life.
The Herald of I'm Sorry.
Yep. I mean,
give him a big maple leaf on his cape, like a Canadian.
That is even terribler than I thought. That's great. And then we have some of the orcs. So orcs, less egg-like. I mean, not everything
less well
can be an
fed,
egg, apparently. But it has that classic late 80s, early 90s feel where it looks like he's just taking a stop sign down. This is my backbone. Here's how this one goes.
Were they as scrawny as that back in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It feels very first Mad Max movie.
Yeah.
They've put a
toe
green
cutter.
mask on some guy and just said, right, action.
Yeah. Bobby, today you're playing an orc. A what? That's it. Keep that up.
That's it. Perfect. Do that.
Some of the Imperial Eggbots and Swarf. So Swarf's presumably Squat Dwarf. Swarf.
Mm.
So I don't know whether or not he's contacted Lloyd for his naming convention of portmanteauing words together. But there we have could be a mortar or could be one of the old school mole mortars, which if you don't remember were great because they just burrowed underneath defenses and then came up and exploded from below.
If you angle it back a bit and stick a box on the end of it, it's a las cannon.
Oh yeah. It's got the cut off.
Yeah.
For the
just pour it out. Off you go.
If Tim was around, Disney's The Black Hole, there were a couple of little robots that looked not dissimilar to that, although I'm fairly certain there was actually a mono-wheeled robot that looks identical to that in another kid's cartoon, but I'm damned if I can remember it. But I seem to remember yellow and black featuring heavily in the paint job of it. But look at him coming at you on his tiny little mono-wheel.
Was that a robot from DuckTales or something? Or something, it was of that ilk.
Oh, Launchpad played some sort of Roboduck.
Yeah.
I say played, he was.
Yeah.
In spare time.
Mild New Vegas vibes. What do you think, Shay?
I was actually thinking that.
From the Protectrons. Yeah, okay.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. I'd be a New Vegas army. Oh, God.
Well, you picked up some stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, but it's not New Vegas. It's not the same, John.
It's fine.
That was good.
Oh.
Okay.
There's some of the runt bots. A tiny Swarf Commissar.
The Commissar is fantastic.
He's so perfectly proportioned. The worst thing is he's a very similar pose to the actual recent GW plastic one, but yeah, he still looks way better.
Yeah, but you can imagine him being knee-high, screaming at guardsmen to get forward.
Oh, perfect.
He can't see where forward is.
Well, it's that direction, isn't it?
He's sort of half Brian Blessed, half the commander from Das Boat.
Right.
Jurgen. There's one of our stunt bot type things.
Oh, I want that painted up as an angry marine.
These were just great back in the day. There's a Termineg stunt bot as well. Orc bot, they call them here. But those bots were great. Did they ever I know they brought bots back in, what do you call it? The new iteration of Blackstone Fortress Space Quest thing.
Oh,
they had like ambots and things.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you've got the is it Cataphracta or something for the Mechanicus? They have bots now as well.
But back when bots were bots and they existed, you would actually have like a programming list that you would program your bot to do at the start. It was all just like handwritten type of thing. So your bot, if no things within X, then walk forward. If no targets, then turn 90 degrees left. Or, you would set up your program beforehand and then just release it.
I love that.
Because they didn't have, obviously the whole thing was that AI is a terrible thing. You don't want them to have AI, so you just had to program a set of instructions into your bot and then deploy it and then hope that your instructions got it into a position where it was actually doing some good. Some little Hearthguard for the Swarfs and Ancestor Lord. I'm very old.
We needed Ben on this.
Yeah, I did tell Ben that that I was going to do this. Ben's response was, "What, on the week I'm not here?" And I went, "Hey, you can come in, but I'm unboxing my new house." You do that then, Ben. That will teach
priorities, man. Priorities.
Well,
So you tried to FOMO him.
Pretty much, 100%. He was so annoyed. So annoyed.
That's the best part.
Yep.
I am digging the range. It's very, very cool.
Guess helping to find some more of the craziness.
Ooh, Exonaut.
Yeah, so this is very similar to what a squat and exo armor used to look like. Only less eggy around the head. But otherwise, pretty spot on with twin plasma, because that'll teach you and everyone around you
I love
Until-
the boots.
until he
It's
blows up.
just super glued to the body. It's brilliant.
He's a violent deep sea
Oh,
diver.
very
Wow, that's a
Oh.
picture.
But
Yeah.
I can clearly see top and bottom there.
Yeah.
But whenever I
Now-
click on it and then open it, it's cropped.
Yeah. But you see, the one you're opening there, Gerry, is you're opening the thumbnail, which is full
Yes.
and
but,
tiny.
But when I open this one, it's cropped.
Yeah.
But there is an uncropped version that exists somewhere in this website. We just can't see it.
Very tiny.
So, and then the ultimate entity set. And this is, I think, the real joy of this. The just insane batshittery that has come out of Marcus's mind, essentially. Where he's going,
It's like an
"What?"
orc and a Tyranid had a baby.
Well, that's what happens when squats get corrupted. That there was the little squatlet in exo armor, and now it's gone wrong. It's not right, and this is why those Hearth Worlds should be bombed just into submission, because they've gone completely Pete Tong. He is very fond of his eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
He is a
Couldn't
bit,
tell.
yeah.
I couldn't see that.
Yeah, hey.
Ow.
Let's see what you
Say
did
I'm
there.
bad.
Well, you are bad. We'll finish off with a couple of
Ooh, I like the little Chaosy Lord.
the Chunkinator. Oh, Maximus.
Yeah,
He's-
I like that.
he's
I want
good.
that.
He's here to do his best.
I want that.
This was a period when Chaos Squats, or it's obviously not from that period because it's modern, but it's from a homage from the Chaos Squat period where they took squats and chaosified them. And they did the same for dwarves. So you would get like teeny tiny little Chaos Warriors, little fat, stumpy Chaos Warriors. They were great for fantasy. And then GW decided that they needed to make the Chaos Dwarves look different. So they give them that Persian theme, which I've never been a fan of. I preferred the idea that regular dwarves got chaosified and not that it was a whole separate race of Persian dwarves that we hadn't really seen before. And then obviously 40k, they never got a chance to go past that because the range got squatted. Fanar. He's quite good.
I like that.
There's a little squatting. Oh, sorry. Eggbot exosuit set.
Oh, he's a happy chappy.
He's really happy to be here.
Yeah, the Chunkinator. So, Orc and Eggbot armor.
Yeah. I like to think that he uses those two plasmas on his shoulders, not for war, but for cooking.
It's entirely possible. We'll finish off
torches.
with the Here We Go-esque Eggbot orcs. The thing that gets me is so many of these are just one-piece resin casts. There's not a huge amount of assembly on them. And where there is, it's things like this where gun barrels or the backpack may have to be slapped on. I mean, there's a mech boy squad that your opponent will not have a notion what's coming at them.
Because neither do they.
Yep.
There's someone I was always told, if it looks like you're getting into a fight, look crazier than the other guy, you'll be fine.
Like Doc Tavis.
Yeah.
He's got a grin from ear to ear. He's got so many teeth. He must be rich. Somebody should mug him. If I mug him, I mean batter the ever-living Jesus out of him. Anyway, wear Weevil miniatures. Start doing little collaborations with other sort of independent sculptors as well. So it'll be interesting to see what comes forth from that and where the range goes, including that Spires of Apophis game where the whole idea is to corrupt or stave off corruption within the spire. So I just really like it. I don't know what it is they're feeding the people in Australia. Well, Weevils, clearly.
all those Piranzacs.
Sending them a bit wrong. Right. Enough of the indie. We're going to take a quick swish, and when we return, we'll check out some news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, we are back with news. And the first bit of news also comes from Australia. Can we flip the image upside down for the first half of the show? Just to show solidarity. No? Well, you can't have everything. So, Slaves to Gaming have announced Wave 3 of their Maschinenkrieger for their 15mm, or MAC 15mm as it's known. So, if you're not aware of this, and it's something that I was semi-aware of because of a friend who's a big Maschinenkrieger fan, and his house is adorned with dozens of the little tiny robots. I would say robots. Walking mech suits is actually probably closer to the mark. But it's sort of the 29th century. Earth's had World War IV. It's kind of habitable again. So humanity has been sent back from their colonies beyond the stars, or other parts of the solar system anyway. And the Style Democratic Republic have been given land rights for the radioactive Earth. Unfortunately, people don't like how they're doing stuff, and therefore mercenaries and rebels spring up. So these are all 15mm figures. There's quite a comprehensive range now, but no game as yet. Although we'll get to that in a little while. So there's the Independent Mercenary Army. So you've got your fighting suits, and for every sort of release, they do both the SDR and the Merc companies versions. These are the ones I'm really aware of. Normally those were big sort of glass heads. Running around the place armed with Panzerfausts, because that's how you deal with walking tanks, is knock them out. Take them out of the knee, Shay. Take them out of the knee. It's the way to do it. But they're also support units. So instead of singly based, you get like essentially a support weapon or heavy weapon team on a slightly larger base. In this case, rocket launcher, or the Gustav heavy lasers for the style. But there's a whole host of miniatures they've been working on for a while now, including sort of single pilot walkers for light reconnaissance, and recently they've also added it's a single fighter type, but it's used by both sides, but can be equipped in a variety of ways. There's the Custer rotary cannon, offering a bit of in-depth shootings. I love the big coil spring on the legs. It has that.
The engineering feels a little bit rough and ready, which I like.
It comes from the initial sort of Japanese comic or construction of it. A lot of it was done using existing kits in a very Star Wars way. So they would take kits, they would take actual pieces, which meant you were often using, because in those days there weren't a huge amount of sci-fi kits, so you were often using real world model kits to then adapt to make into something sciencey fictiony. So it kind of went that way. The little Fledermaus.
I've seen the Maschinenkrieger 135th scale kits. Like I've seen them floating around, and always wondered what the hell they were about, because they look amazing. There's
a whole backstory and world that is all more or less the concept of one man. Now this is done with his blessing, so this is official. There was a old style tactical / strategic hex game with counters. In fact, if we go to their website, you might actually be able to see it. So Koi Yokoyama is the gentleman responsible for all of this. There's the original board game rules there. That's a good way to go. You might be able to see what's happening with this, or the sheer volume of this may go, oh my God, no, you can't open it. No, it's fine. So they are working on this 15mm version of Mac. In fact, in August, they're having a mini Mac con in Canberra. So if you happen to be in Australia and also are interested in 15mm hard sci-fi future wargaming, You can see what they're working on because that's going to be used as sort of a play test for their 15mm game. You can see it was like most of the big hex counter strategic games, fairly in depth. So I've no idea how this new version is going to play out. I say new version, how this tabletop version is going to play out of Mac 15. But they've been working away on these for some time, getting the two core ranges ready, and now you've got, everything you should need to be able to play out. So you've got your combined arms, you've got your infantry, tanks, and flyers now as well, and of course the big bubbly mech suits, which everybody loves. Him as well. I want him opened because I am by nature that type of person. There's the Dollhouse AA for the mercs, and you can see it. They all have this real world aesthetic coupled with that weird bubbly armor.
Yep.
In places where the Nutcracker, which just looks like something you would have seen constructed in the 80s from model kits where people have vac formed pieces and stuff. So you've got these very curved surfaces. Not everything's harsh angles, but then occasionally it'll be blended with.
It's very Doctor Who come Gerry Anderson.
Yes, yeah.
Kind of work, really.
And it's fascinating the world that developed from that, simply because of the restrictions in available materials and how the sort of the things were concepted and put together over time. So there is a Facebook group as well if people are interested in the actual 15mm style of things and seeing how it's going to play out.
I will say, out of them, I'm digging the vibe of the Mercenaries more.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
no, SDR's where it's at, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking SDR.
Yeah.
What do you think, Shay?
SDR?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
I'm standing alone here, folks.
75mm gun. Havachi.
That's a chicken walker with a massive packer, pun included.
I mean, it's going to fire and do a barrel roll.
But this was the whole concept behind Machine Krieger. That it was, he wanted to do something hard sci-fi in the style of the Star Wars, because obviously it was starting to make big tracks in the early 80s, and people had these things, and you can definitely see it with things like the chicken walker aesthetics, and then like the big heavy walking tank panzer suits and stuff, just add a whole other level to it. So that range was a little bit delayed because of the event, but now Wave 3 is out, and so going great guns, and hopefully the guys at Slaves to Gaming will be able to sort of push on and get a game that we can then chuck down on the table and start playing. But even if you're not looking for that particular game, the fact that these are 15mm, there's a lot of other 15mm sci-fi games that can be chucked out there. Things like Star Grunts and Hammer Slammers and bits and pieces like that. So yeah, it's always nice to see more 15mm sci-fi, especially something that's a bit more grounded and less off the wall, I suppose.
That's whiz-bangy.
Other things, yeah. Next up, some actual historic Perry's. They released the Franco-Prussians at Salute, I believe, if memory serves. So it's a new plastic kit, or rather a set of two plastic kits for the Franco-Prussian War with the French infantry. Interesting way they've done these boxes. So 2 boxes with 38 figures in each, which is a 3-man command, and then 35 infantry, essentially. But what they've put together is essentially 2 sprues. So you've got the French infantry advancing, and then the French infantry firing. And then they mix the sprues together in it. So when you get the advancing box, you get like 2 sprues of advancing and then 1 sprue of firing to use as like skirmishers in front. And then when you get the firing line, you get 2 of the firing and then 1 of the advancing to sort of have the guys at the back who are reloading or getting into position, which is a nice way of doing it, because often you don't just want one static look for a whole regiment. And it gives you a bit of variation in them, especially if you're going to be playing some of the larger scale games where you need to have your skirmishers. I was going to call them Voltigers, but that's slightly, well, I suppose, light infantry. But yeah, you've got that sort of that cusp of a change with the Franco-Prussian War, where it's going from the old school Napoleonic sort of line warfare into what we would think of as modern, sort of early World War One or sort of late colonial wars, where you're breaking from line to skirmish, and sort of moving on from that. The sort of thing that was happening with the American Civil War just a few years earlier as well. That sort of the technology had reached a point where the tactics of the old style of warfare, the line warfare, weren't going to suffice any longer. And generals were very slow in finding that out. But as always with the Perrys, some fantastic looking sculpts. Also, presumably usable for their colonial warfare. So in North Africa, obviously, anybody's seen sort of Beaugest and things like that will be very familiar with the look of the French Foreign Legion with kepis, although they're missing the little sunshade at the back. But yeah, lovely set of plastics once again from them, and presumably this will just be added to constantly, as is their wont, until they've got everything they need to play whatever game they've decided that they want to play in the Franco-Prussian War. It must be good to be the Perrys, where you go, I really want to play X, and then they just sculpt a range.
Yeah, just make it themselves.
It's where pretty much everything came from. It's certainly all their old GW stuff. The reason the Empire range for GW and the Bretonnian range initially looked as they did was because they wanted to use those in their own wargaming, and therefore they were sculpted for very specific periods that they could then push on from, especially whenever they started doing the plastic tooling for the Empire's state soldiers. So they're absolutely cracking. There's also a set of 14 hard plastic Russian Napoleonic Ulans, which are like Cav for the Napoleonic Wars, with those like Chapskas, something I can't pronounce it. It's the little square topped hat that the Polish lancers are sort of famous for wearing. But here we have some lovely Russian light cavalry as well.
It is something we should really try and do. I think in all the years we've been doing this, we've never actually done like a proper Napoleonic 28mm skill game on the tabletop.
That's because Warren keeps wanting to add space lasers and wizards and stuff to it. He gets very confused and wanders off.
He keeps gaming between the gaps so much he keeps missing.
He misses the game.
Yeah.
I've aimed at the Napoleonics, but my gap has been so widened it's gone right through. And
I've built UFO Nazis again.
Oh, shit. I'd have absolutely no problem with doing it.
I think it could be fun.
It's one of these things where it comes down to what you want to do. So I've got a British Perry Napoleonic army from Wargames Foundry when they were sculpting from them in 28s, which probably look like 25s these days, to be fair. But yeah, that's scale creep for you.
People were shorter back then.
But it's well, that is true. But it's trying to put together opposing forces of a similar size. So you need to pick your rule set first and decide what way you're going to do it. The reason I've never got around to Napoleonics is finding everybody has an idea of what their Napoleonic game that they want to see on the not their Napoleonic game as in the game you've written, but what the game you want to play is. And for me, the command and control part has always writ large for me. That I want my game to be X, Y, and Z, but I want to have the idea of having your runners, having the aide de camp being sent out to change the orders on a unit, and perhaps that unit is still going to plow on for a little while. In the meantime, while that runner's desperately trying to catch up and go, God, no, there are Cossacks over that hill. Please come back to march up there. So finding a rule set is the first trick. So we need to sit down and sort of bash out what we want to do. Black Powder, I know, has a lot of critics from sort of, here's the top end old school gamers, we want this, but Black Powder is incredibly popular because it's a very easy access route for people, and it has that command and control to a certain extent, but then you also have, I'd need to go in with a big marker and change all of the movement sizes just because I don't have a 30-foot wide board, and cavalry just go herring off like there's no tomorrow. So yeah.
Well, this is the thing as well. I'm always nervous of Napoleonics because of maybe the amount of housekeeping you have to do in your command and control. But if it's self-contained and it works, no problem.
It depends. Depends on the game. We're going off on a tangent here, but I blame the kids. I have...
And he happens to have them two-hand.
No, well, I've got black powders up there, but I have Bella Ludi from Peter van Dop in the Netherlands, and it's like an even more stripped down version of Napoleonics. In fact, he's done several games which kind of work on a black powder-esque basis, except instead of rolling like a command dice, like a morale check for your commander, they're little D20, which are you might focus. There we go. So they're labeled 0 to 3, and then there's also a big red blunder on it somewhere. There we go. So it's like a black powder game that's stripped back for convention gaming or for a large amount of people who don't play that particular rule set. So instead of making morale checks and stuff, when you have to this check to make, you just go, what do you want to do? You want to order those guys to go up there? Okay, roll the dice. Oh, 1, you're only going to get 1 order for that unit this turn. So that might be one to go for. We'll see. We can come back to it in the future. Why must you always distract me? Why?
Because it's so enjoyable to hear you go off on one.
Well,
same as talking to John about tanks. It's just pull the pin and let him go.
I mean, the alternative, because I've got Chosen Men, which is a low model count, but it's really just recreating the Sharp TV series. But then, small scale skirmish Napoleonics, is it really Napoleonics? If you've only got Sharp, Harper, and 5 other guys in a unit, and then maybe like 10 cavalry, yes, it's a great way of doing small if you just want to play the sort of the period and paint the uniforms, but don't want to do massive armies. But that's
in a mush bush of it.
Yeah.
The problem with playing anything that has Sharp in it is that you're going to have that one guy at the table just shouting bastards.
Yeah.
And everything.
I've got the Sharp models for 28mm as well, by the way.
Of course you do. From
Brigade in the US, which if you like Sharp, you should really check them out, because you can not just get Sharp and the Chosen Men, but there's also Hogan and the little French, I suppose he would have been Spy Master. I think he is. With the
guy with the mask?
The little round glasses and little tiny hat on him.
Oh, I know.
He was forever annoying Sharp's happiness. But yeah, so for like a small scale skirmish, Chosen Men might be interesting to just whet the appetite, get things started, and see about whether or not I can convince people to paint 50 men in a unit with white trousers.
How many units?
Oh, many units. But then this is another one where maybe 28mm wouldn't be the way to go. Maybe drop down to 6 or 10mm and do something impressive on a grand scale. But I'm sure people in the comments will be feverishly typing away, shut up, we'll move on. Or alternatively suggesting a decent rule set. By the way, in the Grand Manor and Shaco are not good rule sets, because I've played them both. I don't want to ever see them again, so don't even bother mentioning them to me.
And that's out there on the internet now, and oops, did he accidentally at war?
Oh, I don't care. I'm not playing them again. I played them once 30 years ago, and that was more than enough for me. Anyway, speaking of streamlined games for playing, Daniel Mersey has announced the Armored Storm, the Eastern Front. So this is essentially a tank battle game for World War II.
I couldn't tell from the name or the art.
Yeah, it's subtle. It's very subtle.
It's very subtle.
It looks like it's calling to Shay hardcore.
Well,
a bit. Yep.
It would be. Look at that. It's only going to be available in PDF. And Daniel has said that this is not a serious study of tank warfare. This is an extension of his childhood spent pushing little tiny tanks and toy tanks around and enjoying himself. So if you're looking for an in-depth simulation, is probably the best word for that, of Eastern Front warfare, ignore this. Look on past it now. However, if you've looked at things like movies in the past, like what's that one with the Panzer League writ large on it, where you've got the massive German tank force all made up of the Battle of the Bulge. Thank you. If you've looked at things like that and go, oh, that looks majestic with all those tanks, right? I'd like to just do that, but I don't want to bother with any of the fiddly things like infantry and aircraft and artillery and blah, blah, blah. Then this might be the game for you. It is scale agnostic, so things work in distance units, and then depending on what scale stuff you have model-wise, you can then obviously vary the distant units that you're going to be using. So 28mm might be 5 centimeter movement, and something like 10mm or 15mm, you may only be looking at a few centimeters movement. So depending on your game scale, you can sort that out for yourself. But the idea behind it is kind of similar to Age of Penda that we looked at previously, where you have a tactics board, and the game itself uses this. So you're playing with tank platoons and tank commanders. There's only German and Soviet forces in here. So to give you an idea of sort of some of the things that he's drafted in to try and get the aesthetic and feel across, you've got like a command radius for tank. Germans just need to be able to chain to one tank. Every Soviet tank needs to chain to 2 tanks within its platoon, so that it compacts the Soviets more, and they don't do the as spread out sort of more independent tank commander kind of feel. Also, Germans not using so many flags for command. But depending on the amount of forces on each side, you'll have so many command tokens in a turn, and the first thing you have is a tactics phase. So somebody will start off with the initiative, and they get to place their token first. And if you place it on maneuver 3, then that locks it off. So your opponent doesn't get maneuver 3, so they'll have to go, well, maybe maneuver 2, or go hull down, or fire. So you can see where it goes. By your choices, you can stop your opponent from potentially doing things that he wants to do, and instead you can sort of force them to react. Obviously, seize the initiative means that the initiative then flips, and you get to start placing tokens first in the following turn. So I can imagine sometimes the initiative will flip back and forward, or as Shay will notice, often I don't care about the initiative so much. I'm much more interested in being able to activate specific things that I want, like in our little Osprey games. But if your firing is limited to 2 units, or maybe only 1 unit, then at that point you're going to have to make big choices, and that's where the strategic depth for this sort of comes in. It's trying to outthink your opponent and put your plan into action with the limited resources. And in this case, the limited resources are X number of units being able to activate to do whatever you want them to do. So that's very intriguing. Other things that he's got in it is it's a D10 system to begin with. The charts themselves are very simple. As far as arcs of fire go, you've just got a simple 50-50 split. Middle of the hull dissected. Anything to the front, or anything forward of that, is the front armor. Anything back of that is the rear armor. When you move, you pivot the tanks once at the start, move in a straight line once at the end. So it's all about fast play and big tables filled with tanks, attempting to outmaneuver and outperform your opponent. There are 12 pages of sort of tank lists at the moment already. There's only a 36-page rule set, which is excellent. And you can see the last half page is blank Furon stats, but that's the sort of thing you're looking at. So the tank type, the speed, so how many moves it can make during a maneuver, which means your light tanks can obviously whip off like nobody's business, their front, side armor, and then penetration at ranges. So very simple. And when you think there's 10 pages of that, and each page has got about 5 armored vehicles. I'm going to stop calling them tanks, actually, because there are things like Marders and Hetzers and ISUs and bits and bobs like that in there that don't have turrets. But there's also the American Lend-Lease and stuff like that. But it means there's fairly comprehensive lists that you can sort of split early and late for the Eastern Front. And it's just an interesting way that you can explore that period and play out big fun games. So it may be a very attractive one for playing at a club or introducing kids to wargaming, where you're not having to go, he's a 45-degree angle. Here is you're only hitting the front armor, and it's sloped front armor, which means you've got less penetration, and then you're at range, and there's sub munitions and blah 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 blah. Like in the Grand Manor.
I'm bored. I'm off to play.
Yeah, like in the Grand Manor. Just leave that alone. I don't want tables upon tables sometimes. But yeah, I'm impressed by it. Apparently, he'd previously done another armored warfare version, which was Desert Storm, I think. So this takes some of that. There's scenarios and other bits and pieces in there as well, but PDF only. It is made that you can print it out, so there's not lots of flashy pictures and things in it. It's a very basic black and white rule set for people who just go, I need a 12-page rule set. Thanks, great. There we go. One tactics board laminated and a double-sided player sheet for each person, and you're cracking into some big Eastern Front games. And I happen to know there's loads of 15mm tanks kicking around in the studio, so that might be one that we could give a wee swizz to, see how that plays out.
Definitely up for that.
Yeah.
Dibs on the Russians.
There are optional rules for mobile infantry and air support and stuff as well, if you want to draft them in. But I like the idea of like a Kursk or Smolensk, something with just tons of armor.
Walking up to Prokhorovka.
Yeah, and Dan knows that tanks without armor tanks without infantry isn't massively historically accurate. It did happen on occasion, but really it's just for fun, quick games of armor versus armor, slugging it out on the steps.
In my head, I want to take all my 1/16 stuff out and actually, play to see how big can we scale this game.
I think we may need a field.
Yeah, there's absolutely no problem with that.
But can you imagine doing this, John, if you had enough RC tanks?
That is exactly what I was aiming at.
Oh, I think we all, deep down, John, I think we all had an inkling that's what you're thinking.
We all want to do it.
The good thing about that is you just need to rob a local tennis club. So we get a couple of those umpires' chairs.
Yeah.
So we can just sit either edge of the field.
All the controllers in front
with a walkie-talkie to insult each other.
Yeah. I mean, you can get disco on your phones and stuff these days, can't you?
Yeah.
You just sit there, just going, I've taken, you just have your little tactics board beside you, go, I've taken maneuver 3 units. Ha ha ha. Go from there. Anyway, yeah, so Armored Storm.
Yeah. You need a caddy for the controllers.
That's where you've got your big umpire chairs. I'm sure we could like a baby, because they're very similar to a baby's high chair in many respects, those umpire chairs. We just need one of those flip down tables. You can just put them all in front of you. I mean, this game plays itself, essentially. Why are we not already doing this?
At least moves itself.
We should just leave, John.
Yeah.
How quickly can you get to field and charge up some room control things? Right. No. Anyway. So, one more bit of news that's very exciting for me, and possibly very exciting for young Justin there as well.
Yes, the world of Degenesis.
Yeah. Clan Wars is on its way. Now, we looked at this in 2021. Mm-hmm. I came across this RPG, and it's Primal Punk is how it's described. So it's not post-apocalyptic, although it is. But it is.
But it's post.
It's 500 odd years past the impact of a meteor that changed the surface of the Earth, and everything went horribly wrong. And now it's just humanity in this new world attempting to not get killed up
and so drag itself out of the ashes.
It's like survival. I was going to say survival horror. It is if you go into the forests. It's mostly survival. It's humanity attempting to survive, and the world that the guys at Six More Vodka had put together was just stunning. It's all still available. It's all, in fact, right there on the Degenesis website.
Yeah, but I can't ever get my hands on those big, beautiful books that they made.
These?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so pretty.
I've got the complete set.
So nice.
So the RPG is no longer being sold in a physical format, but all of it is still here, and there's a lot of it. However, they've been working away in the background for over a year. Last year, they teased that something was coming, something was happening, with just a little tease of Clan Wars, but didn't say anything more about it. And then last week, they announced, sort of gently slid in and went, here it is. And what it is a tabletop skirmish game version of it that is going to be coming to Kickstarter sometime soon. Don't know exactly when.
Shut up and take my money.
They have been, backlit teasing shots of things is very annoying because everybody wants to see it in writ large. The world, the artwork, the development of it, even the previous trailers and videos that they did of people like Falber getting ready to go out was just stunning. It could have been a movie or a TV series.
I dare to dream.
Taking all of that in-depth world building that they've done and all of the great concept and artwork, and I've seen suspicion. I want to say Paolo Parenti may have been involved with some of the recent stuff as well. Don't hold me to that though, but I think I've seen it in passing. But they're returning to it with a semi-cooperative narrative skirmish game. There'll be campaign maps, there'll be tabletop sort of gameplay maps as well, and there'll be a whole host of factions. Now, within the world of Degenesis, you've got everything from people who are essentially subsistence living peasants to wandering nomadic bands, scraping by or attacking anybody else who's kicking around, to in-depth built cities with justicars and
also the humans who were asleep in cryogenic tombs that have woken up.
The filthy Swiss who blew up all the bridges when things were kicking off and then hid themselves away so that they've got best tech, best armor, they come rocking out.
And then wake themselves up by stages, so it's not just everybody wakes up at the same time. There are fresh recruits coming.
And the chroniclers who may or may not be some sort of hive AI mind. Don't worry about them. They're all fine. You're looking all a bit rough. Here. At what point did you decide to carve a cross into your head, Justin?
See, that may have been a moment of I went into the wrong village and had a few too many, and just this is a great idea. That's kind of a hold my beer moment. That Mark. Yeah.
So this is Steel Beam. That is the club of the Cockroach King that he wields now. Kind of filed down into a rough sword. I can't imagine that the blade is much on it. It's more for bludgeoning through than neatly chopping.
I mean, everything's sharp if you swing it hard enough.
That's what they tell me. But they have actually shown off a bit of the miniature. So this is just from, I'm not sure whose desk this was, maybe Liam's, maybe Marco's. So we don't know what scale it's going to be going for, 28, 32, whatever. I imagine it probably be the larger scale because most things are these days. But you can see the detail that's gone from that original artwork into putting this guy into a 3D version of him. He's missing some notches. Every time he clubs somebody to death, anybody's stupid enough to attack him, he notches the blade on his sword.
You can do that through your games. Keep a kill count.
That's true. Yeah. So there's lots we don't know yet. Do know it's starting with 13 characters. Do know that it's going to be starting with a whole range of things that will be unlocked as the campaign progresses. Some of which they've already told what the banner will be. So things like an additional 12 characters will be expanded into it. Because they've been tinkering away with the Discord, or Disco as I call it, and they are very, very animated when it comes to engaging their community. So if I go into Discord, so they do an awful lot of teasers and codes that you need to kind of cipher. So you see that when the world was young and memorize our origins and all this sort of stuff. So they've been doing these receiver transmissions, so sort of unusual little things that have been popping up on a daily or weekly basis, and then people have been combing through these little videos and GIFs and stuff to spot little like numbers hidden in the background, and then have spent their time deconstructing what these actually mean. On top of this, they've also got Twitter and Instagram, which I'm aware of. I've never been there, but thankfully they are, combining all of that, compiling it into the Discord here. So if you're not on those, you can see it. But they've been using social media and using Discord to try and generate interest, and so they're teasing extra stuff as they go and unlocking extra stuff as more people sort of sign up and subscribe, so you can find out what else is happening. If you're one of the people who likes puzzles, and there are many, they have a whole discussion channel on it. And then this evening, Friday evening, they're going to be having a sort of a live stream reveal type thing. So there's tons of stuff coming.
Instantly sold.
It's just a case of how does this all sort of develop and how it comes together. So I know they've talked about tabletop maps on top of the campaign map. It is a skirmish game, so I'm expecting multiple people. It is semi-cooperative and narrative, so is it kind of trying to take the RPG feel onto the tabletop, or will it just play out in some other unforeseen way? There's one thing, the people at SIXMOREVODKA are not, they never do the bare minimum. They never rest on their laurels. The fact they've been beavering away, working on all new artwork and finding different partners to do things like the sculpting and the presumably the miniature making side of things as well, before they even announced that this was coming is just massive. So,
well, it was the spark of insanity and genius that they had, where if you wanted to buy the books, you could. They were limited run, but every single thing they ever made was always free for everyone. Yeah,
I mean, it's all still there. On that Degenesis website, you can see the link in the story, and it's full PDFs, full color, high res, so you're not losing anything except being able to actually flick through the books. So that'll harden you. But yeah, fascinating to see where things go. The fact that it's semi-cooperative as well. There are monsters that have been corrupted in the world of Degenesis in the future, but in the RPG, you didn't really tackle them. Because if you ran into some of those mutant creatures, you were just dead. They existed in the same way that, a lion or gorilla exists in our world, or even worse, a hippo. They are things that are out there, and if you run afoul of one, it doesn't matter how buff or well-toned or how many ultramarathons you can run, they will absolutely muller you. And likewise in this, if something came creeping out of the forest with some sort of strange mantis-like axe for hands, then you were absolutely hamstrung. So the game itself revolved around the people who were essentially trying to get back to top, almost like feudal system setting up. People are getting killed up left, right, and center, and it's how they approach that. Will we see more of the monster side, or will they focus in on telling the story, telling the narrative campaigns of your group of characters together? And occasionally you might run into something that you really wish you shouldn't have. But, fascinating. I'm looking forward to it. You may have caught that. I'm hoping Liam still lives in. He was in Ballycastle.
Aye.
If he's still in Ballycastle, I need to come down to the studio and see what's going on. I think at one stage he was talking about possibly moving to somewhere foreign like Scotland.
Oh dear.
So, yeah.
Well, it's not that bad. A couple hours on the ferry.
It's still quite bad. But anyway, yeah. So Clan Wars from SIXMOREVODKA, definitely worth checking out. And if you're interested in seeing more, the Discord. Their disco is just absolutely ramped full of things. Right, one more tiny little bit of news, which isn't really news, but I thought we should bring it up because we're about halfway through. We've been running the Spring Clean Challenge. There is, at this stage, about 60 days or 2 months-ish left to go. If you're not aware of the Spring Clean Challenge, it's a chance to dust off old things or get back involved with something that you've not touched in a while. So people have been diving into the projects, either resurrecting old projects and reclassifying them, or starting new ones and just digging out something dusty or half primed from an age ago. And it's really just a case of, during the first quarter of the year up here in Northern Ireland anyway, because I know people are going, it's winter where I am. I don't care where you are. The world revolves around us. But yeah, it's a chance to dust off those projects and try and get them another lease of life, finish off the things that have been sadly abandoned and left on a shelf. If you're interested in getting involved with the Spring Clean Challenge, you just come over to OnTableTop.com. If you're not already a member, you can do a free sign up. Doesn't cost you anything, and you just go into the project system and just add a project and go from there. There are a bunch of categories. We have the best skill, best tutorial, best idea, best otter, Pap, our junior member, and then Warren added breath of fresh air, where he wants people to go outside and take pictures in the outside world. Does my windowsill count as outside?
Depends. If you go out your front door and take a photograph of it in the way onto your hobby desk.
Oh, well, then there we go. So we can do that. So yeah, a few different categories you can throw in for. There are 5 main prize winners get £75 voucher, and then 5 runners up of £25 for the OTT store by merch. But if you're not already involved and you've got something collecting dust that you were thinking, you know what, I should get into that, or maybe there's some games coming up that you're thinking, well, I just need to go and paint some Napoleonics in 6mm, then why not chuck in for that? Show people what you can do. And, if you want to go for something like the best tutorial, we've had some corkers in the past. Bruce Lee's funnies, Robart's funnies, from a previous year where he built all of the sort of the 15mm versions of the tank editions that were used for D-Day and beyond. It was an amazing project. That one you should just go and have a look at anyway if you have an interest in World War II armor. Just seeing him doing things like the bobbin layer and stuff, some of which were bought, some of which were scratch built, but the entire thing was an absolute joy. And seeing tutorials like that are just amazing. But then at the same time, you can see very simple tutorials where it's just somebody going, here's how I make a tree out of wires, or here's how I've done X, Y, and Z. So it's just a chance for anybody who fancies doing a bit of hobby to get involved and show us what you've got. Insert Rick and Morty giant heads here. Right. We shall be right back after this wish to finish off the show.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
Okay, we are back to finish off the show with some crowdfunding campaigns.
Can't call them Kickstarters this week?
No, because one isn't, and it would just confuse me.
But they're all marked as Kickstarter in our running order. Somebody's lying to me.
None of you's even read that, so
No.
it doesn't matter. Since we didn't have a 3D printing as yet, I thought I'd start things off with a little bit of 3D printing. So this is a Kickstarter, courtesy of Kathy Millett, for modular landing pads. They come in a variety of flavors, sort of 2 types. One, very Star Wars-esque, galaxy far, far away, and the other one more modular. Indeed, there are 2 different types of pledges available. You can have your galactic set, or you can have your modular set. And as you can see there's a whole host of ships and things sitting on them.
Do they do the ships, or is that just from other places?
Other places. Some of them are some of Warren's toys from terrible cartoons for kids. But, I mean, for example, that's Jedi Fighter. The Galactic Star Set, as you can see there, are fairly chunky. I love the big sweeping rings, very tattoo-esque. You know, you just stick a wave crest or whatever in there. And that one has a touch of the Bespin about it. The modular set is probably more ubiquitous for people because it uses the open lock system. And you can just get in and click-clack things together in a variety of shapes. So you've got your squares, circles, hexes, triangles. You can tessellate it in a whole variety of ways and then also finish it off as well. There's also a couple of nifty little things, which I believe she'll show at the end of this video. There's like a girder structure that is printed for the open lock. So when you're putting them together, there we go. It gives a bit of rigidity to the structure rather than have it sagging, especially if you're going to dump something huge on top of it. And yeah, it can be expandulated quite considerably, which is a real word, what I have not just made up. People may be familiar with Kathy's work. I've been a subscriber to her YouTube channel for donkey's ages. And then about 2 months ago, she started doing a lot of Star Wars Legion miniatures. I'm going, this is a bit weird because she's not a wargaming channel. Kathy's stuff is all about scenery. Not saying she hasn't done stuff in the past. In fact, I think Second Dynasty, who have made some big 3D printing ships that we've looked at in the past, sent her some for one of their Kickstarters and she painted them up. But, you know, you're as likely to get a Mandalorian in, you know, 1/6 scale scenery alongside a couple crossing an icy lake, as you are to see anything specifically connected to a war game. But it's a great channel for people who are looking to build terrain and scenery and learn how to do various things because it covers all the bases from casting, molding, applying resin effects and water effects, that sort of thing. So yeah, like I say, about 2 months ago, started doing some basing and Star Wars Legion stuff, and presumably it was all for this. So that answered that question for me, which was nice. But there's a whole host of ways you can put the stuff together, which is very good, including the core early bird sets. You can see that you've got multiple layers. So if you want to build something really big, like if you want to fit a Millennium Falcon slap bang in the middle of one of these, you could probably do it. It would be most of your table, I imagine. But, you know, if you're going to be putting a Falcon on the table, then why not go big?
I accept this challenge.
See, I like the idea of this because this style of terrain system you can actually use to really fill out your table without making it unplayable.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, and I don't know how much has come back from some of the people from like Darkfire and Second Dynasty who've given her sort of advice and support and stuff. But there are a set of steps coming in. You can see later on where the ramps are either very long and shallow or the steps are very broad, so you can fit miniatures on them and have them walking up it without going, well, they look realistic, but they can't stand anybody on them. These, you know, they're much more broad spectrum. And like you say, you know, something like Xenos Rampant or Stargrave, you know, building up a host of stuff for your tabletop, especially lots of spaceport. Lots of scenarios are set in spaceports, so having those are always good for a laugh.
Yeah.
Even the landing pad clutter that you can download these STLs to print yourself is quite nice as well because, you know, you need tubes and stuff to be coiled around the floor and lying all over the place. How else will scoundrels and fighter pilots trip over them running there? Or, you know, if there's nothing to plug in, what's an Ugnaught going to do?
See, I love the design of those as well because you can take buildings that aren't very sci-fi and just pop them on it to sci-fi it up a little bit.
Yeah. Having the tanks and the cabling and stuff slapped onto the side is a great way of doing it. So yeah, a whole host of, you know, simple geometric shapes that allow you to put these things together, but they've got a variety of sort of toppings. So there's like sort of sci-fi flooring, and there's also a grid pattern, and you've got various sides. So because it's all open lock system based, you can chop and change to your heart's content to get a variety of things, or when you pack it away, take off the big sticky out bits that may make parking it somewhere when it's not being gamed with difficult normally. Just clip them all off, stick it in a bag, and when you come to play again, put the side on that you require. So I really like it, including things like, various styles of legs, but also various heights as well. Means you can play around with it. And there's some of those big chunky stairs. Stretch goals started kicking off, so we've already things like the aerial pack. Again, you're saying about sticking those onto non-sci-fi terrain. So, for example, if you picked up a load of Adobe buildings from Fugu, a few of these leashed on the top and a few boxes at the doors, and bish bash bosh, Tatooine writ large, stick a big galactic airport in the middle of it, and away you go. Things like the ring steps, I think it's a really nice looking bit, especially where they've got those buildings and wall sections that are very curvaceous, that's a great word. Means you can have these nice swooping pieces. Not everything has to be rigid squares and right angles and 60-degree angle hexes everywhere in the future.
Yeah, the feet on that platform look suspiciously familiar.
I don't know.
Make my eye twitch.
If you've just knocked over a few of them and they're sitting around doing nothing, why not build a platform on top of it? It's the way to do it. So there are plans for a whole host of stretch goals. Obviously, it only launched yesterday, I think, and there's a whole month to go, so there's 28 days left on it. So I imagine all of these stretch goals will start to get busted once people find out about it. But it's really nice to see a new range coming in, and from a very unexpected angle. Somebody who's been 3D printing pretty much since 3D printing kicked off, but little small things, bits and pieces for dioramas and scenery. So obviously she's been experimenting with how to get the best out of 3D printing for a while. So now actually taking the next step and producing a range of her own is just terrific.
Yeah, I do like the fact that the estimated delivery is coming in June time, so you don't have a huge amount of time to wait on it.
There is, in fact, I think it's at the very bottom. So I'm going to do this and annoy everybody. Zoom. There is a breakdown of when it's coming. Here we go. So after Kickstarter ends, the pledge manager go out, and then the files will all go out shortly after. Then late pledges will become available. So I know sometimes because of manufacturing, people will do the late pledge with the pledge manager.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's because it's solely digital files, backers first, and then people who missed out on it can jump in afterwards.
Yeah.
And pick up their pledges, which is a nice touch. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Also, if you're watching this on Friday, the early bird is still active for probably about another 8 hours or so. So
yeah-ish.
So if you're watching this as soon as we've chucked it out, or first thing Saturday morning, and you're interested, you may still be able to get your hands on the early bird pledge. But even beyond that, I can't imagine the regular core pledges are going to be much higher than that. You're only looking £52 for the all-in, which is both the modular and the galactic core sets. So
plus your stretch goals.
Plus any of the stretch goals that unlock as they go through. So anybody interested in playing a bit of sci-fi gaming and doing a bit of 3D printing, the modular sci-fi landing pad have got 28 days left, or a few hours on that early bird. Now, going from one person taking the plunge into a new sort of avenue to a whole other one, and this is Villainy Inc. Now, there is a website come YouTube channel called Grimdark Compendium. It is a bunch of painters who paint in the grimdark style, whatever you choose that to mean. This is not a crowdfunding campaign per se, in that it is, but it's not an all or nothing. So often we look at them and things like Kickstarters, you need to hit a goal before it unlocks, blah, blah, blah. Zatka Gaskgun, which is a fantastic screen name, but unpronounceable, has been painting and doing tutorials for a long time, including doing a lot of enamel washes and stuff. Generally, up until now, he's been using AK or the old MIG line for enamel washes, which are good, but very focused towards military modeling. Obviously, whenever you're painting 40K or sci-fi like that, it works in some cases. In other cases, you want things beyond it because you're going to be using a lot of hues and tones that aren't generally found in military modeling. So the Vilny Ink range of enamels is enamels. It's very important to remember that. These aren't going to be acrylics. Isn't just a new range of enamel paints and washes that are going to be produced by someone with his name stuck on it. This crowdfunding campaign is going to be run from his studio. So this is to fund the materials, the machine to print the labels, the mixing machines for the bottling. So he's literally going to be mixing pigments, enamel, oil, all the bits and bobs with resins and rosins and mediums, essentially in a shed in his house type of thing. Which I 100% I'm on board with, because sometimes you'll see people will, and their names in the community in various ways, and they'll go, well, I'm going to release a range of brushes. And you're going, are you? Well, no, not really, because artist whatever is just going to stick my brand on it, and then we're going to charge you $5 extra. Whereas this is literally a fella is going to be mixing this stuff up and shipping it out from a studio. The interesting thing for me, the initial three, which is a red rust brown, a streaking grime, and a black enamel, have already been sorted. He's adding more to the range, but the formulation he's come up with, and somewhere there lives a video that might demonstrate it. No, I don't want that one. I want the one with the other thing. Might be this one. Is it doesn't all lift. So you can remove and then let it dry and then go, I want more off, and then take a bit more off and then let it dry and then go, no, I want, which means you can actually reverse fade or feather your weathering and tones, which is something more akin to oils than enamels when it comes to stripping stuff back off. He does it very well on It's That. That's the one he does it on. Can I ambiguate you? Yes, I can. Can I skip along to somewhere else? Possibly not. Nah, not that one. It's that door. He takes it off that door in sections until he ends up with essentially a beautiful fade of that sort of teal goes down to the rust at the bottom. So there are other things apart from additional colors that have been sort of unlocked as the stretch goals have gone, coming in the way of STL files from other sort of members of the Grimdark community. So we've got some large-scale figures and also large-scale busts. And I mean, a lot of this stuff is kind of more geared towards the bust painting artists, although obviously a lot of the techniques, as John has often shown us, you can do on vehicles and miniatures as well. So there have been, I think, 5 more inks. I want to say it might not be 5, but we'll see as we scroll down. That have been added since then. So Dystopian Brown, Decay of Death, which is obviously what we would think of as like a technical kind of fluorescent paint, Aquella Green and a Carrion Crimson. And these ones are the ones that I'm most interested in because
sort of
it's
off-color stuff.
Yeah,
off
black enamels
palette.
and browns and stuff. We can get. The formulation may be different, but we can get them. But stuff like that, doing those high contrast hues and enamel washes to sort of separate out pigmentry, changing the depth and tone because this can tint as well. Those are fascinating. And there may already be companies doing them, nobody that I've stumbled across as I've been looking for stuff. So I'm very keen to see this go well. A lot of backers already, and already hammered through most of his stretch goals. So the initial goal to get the equipment he needs and get the bits and pieces, the raw materials has already been hit. And like I said, if it wasn't, anything he made from it would go towards launching the range anyway. So it's due to come out in October, which means you can sort of back, show your support, and then you start production, and then people will be able to then purchase off him in October. So a little bit of a lead up time, but considering it's not just going to be a rebranded AK or a rebranded MiG or whatever it is, I think it's a fascinating step. There's some videos on him mixing the stuff up and testing it out. And if you haven't been on the Grimdark Compendium website, you can get an idea of the sort of the work he does along with some of the other people. There are some fascinating tutorials in sculpting and painting, or even just sort of inspirational stuff as well. So this gives you an idea of the sort of style of painting that he does currently, and therefore what he's making the range to sort of add into and expand upon. And when you see things like that, you can understand why a sort of pinkish red enamel wash may be something that he requires in his life. Because I mean, that's just absolutely stonking. Yeah.
Yeah, so is this one of those cases where because he actually would need it and use it a lot, he has made it and then went, you know what, this could be helpful for other folks?
I think partly that, partly the fact that those particular colours and materials don't exist in an easily accessible way for people to pick up already. So, and
they're colours that would be quite dominant in the grimdark style of painting anyway.
Yeah,
you do see a lot of that real weird off primary color sort of stuff going on.
Yeah. So where you get a lot of people doing similar style of painting, but in different hues and tones and stuff. This is somebody going, well, here are the colors I use and would like to see. So yeah, certainly the community that know about him are already there. So I just thought that might be a little interesting nugget to chuck in for others who are unaware. I know some people hear grimdark and then they suddenly start twitching as a term, but it's out there. We can't get rid of it. It's like gazumping. Right. One last, and this is back to Kickstarter. And I thought since we were looking at some lovely painted miniatures, we could take a look at some lovely painted miniatures. So Dave Taylor, a man who once asked John to write stuff for his book. Hi, John.
Hi.
is back on Kickstarter with a new triptych 3-volume set of The Art of. We have had a slew, well, we've had 6 of these already. They generally cover specific artists, although the initial one was the Miniature Monthly group. But they're not tutorial books per se, although they sometimes include tutorials. These are almost like coffee table books that are full of inspiration and the like. This time round, there are 3 new artists being covered. So Eric Swinson, Yarny Daly, I think is from the Faroe Islands, and Katarzyna Gorska. Each of the books is just jam-packed with a ton of art from their catalogues. And you can see there's some stunning work in there. However, each of the books is also themed in a certain way. So volume 7, which is focused on Eric, will include stuff about light and volume, color choice, and collaborations with people. That being Bloodhoof that popped up at the end is a particularly good example of a collaboration. I think he actually won a competition at the end of last year in Spain. If I remember, Marco was in it, so I was looking to see who the winners was, and that popped up. And that is a 90mm World of Warcraft character that was sculpted. I don't believe it's actually available anywhere else, although I've seen a couple of people paint it, so maybe it got a very limited run. But these, while there are tutorial parts in them, and some of the stretch goals are to expand the sort of the tutorials you can see, a lot of it is just there for aspiration/inspirational work where you can go, I fancy doing X, and here's a nice example of somebody using these, possibly clashing or contrasting colors together, how to develop your painting style and take it in new directions that you might not think of, because it's very easy to get into a habit of all zeniths must be grayscale. All light comes from top down. That it's just the way we tend to approach things as figure painters and as wargamers. You look for repeatable, systematic, easy things, but then maybe coming in and going, well, maybe light sources don't always have to be there. Maybe your zenith base coats don't always have to be grayscale. What if we use a red to pink zenith, knowing that the main colors are going to be a blue to give us really interesting purple shadows, or things like this. You pick up interesting little nuggets throughout these books that you may not think of initially. So, say Volume 7 is about collabs and color choices and stuff like that. Volume 8, possibly one for you, John. A lot of stuff on weathering, planning out your terrain and displays, and also creating a sort of a moment in time if you're making dioramas, and that's where Gerry sort of comes in. And then the final volume is about textural painting, ethereal lighting, and sculptural basing. And as you can see from the dragons, it's absolutely, mind-blowing, the work that she has done on those dragons, especially the textural painting. Larger models tend to have a lot of flat areas on them. And I know some people look at those with sheer panic. Like, you've got a massive wingspan, or you've got a huge flat piece of armor, or what have you. What am I going to do with this? And the answer is, use it as a basis, use it like a canvas, even in miniature form, to sort of push on from there, and not just have a flat color or a gradient, but maybe paint something like the skin tones, the blood vessels, the scale, whatever it happens to be. You can really stretch yourself with these. There are a couple of different ways you can pick this up. You can obviously get the books like Nature Intended, where you can just sit down and flick through them, which is great. You can also get a PDF thing for the kids. That's how you scroll a PDF, or a combination of the two. If you're going to be buying something like this, though, maybe it's just me, but I don't think it is. You tell me if I'm wrong. I think the book is the way to go. PDFs are great if you're looking for text searchable stuff. If you're looking to go, what is the THACO number for an orc? Great. Control F that all day long. But sometimes if you're thinking about starting a new project, you don't know what you're searching for. You don't know what the inspiration is going to be. And sometimes just sitting down with a book and flicking page by page and going, I remember seeing something, didn't I? What books? I just go through and go, you're looking for that big armored mech, and then maybe you come across something entirely different that puts you in another frame of mind and sends you off in another direction. As you can see, it is going to be shipping friendly from a variety of hubs, which is always good. I couldn't see whether or not you could pick up the original 6 volumes in here. However, you can get those from a couple of different distributors. So you can get them in the States, and then Wargames is the distributor for the first 6 volumes in the UK. I don't think there's one for EU at the moment.
We get them.
That's true, yeah, because we get them via Warlord, don't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
Buy merch.
Yeah, buy merch on tabletop.com. But just another fantastic set of books from another stunning set of artists. Dave sent me through some pictures of some of the stuff that was going in the book, and it was, it made me want to break my paintbrushes. But I thought I never used them, so why should I be so cruel? But it is, it's just one of those things where you're looking at it, you're going, they are like works of art. And I seen somebody from the Salute Week commenting on, it might have been a video, might have been a post, might have been somewhere on Facebook, but they were complaining that the painting competition now just seemed to be filled with pro painters. I should go, but that's what you want to see in a painting competition. You know, if I want to see how gamers paint miniatures, I'll paint a miniature myself. The answer is half-heartedly and generally not finished. But actually seeing somebody put the time, effort, and work in and create these stunning dioramas, single figures, big scale sculpts, whatever it happens to be, and they approach it in a way that I certainly never think of a lot of the time, and with color palettes and choices that you not saying your head would rebel when you think about it, but you look at it and go, at no point would I have thought of using X for that, or using this hue for a shade. You know, it expands the realms of painting into new directions for you. And sometimes you're not going to use half of what you see in the book, but then you'll pick up a miniature and you'll think, you know what, maybe I'll give that a try. Maybe I'll try a bit of object source lighting, or maybe for this large piece, and GW are forever releasing larger and larger models. And at that point, you can take the extrapolations of how do you make a diorama for a large scale miniature, and that just becomes how do I make the base for this GW miniature that's as big as my arm, you know, because they have bases that are 120, 190 mil these days. So you're not going to static grass it and sand it in the same way that you would do with a 28 mil figure that fills almost the whole base. You know,
Watch me.
Well, obviously Shay aside, but
That's accepted.
But yeah, so interesting set of books from Dave once again, and 14 days left to run on that Kickstarter if you fancy taking a swing at the art of. Definitely worth checking out. Right, I think that wraps us up for another week. We shall return next Friday, same bat time, same bat channel. But if that's too far away, we're going to be lurking around on Sunday morning like a student at the bottom of their bed at 12 in the afternoon. Who knows what state we'll be in? You can come over to OnTableTop.com and join us as we witter about our hobby and yours in our relaxed Sunday morning XLBS. But until then, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.